The decision that changed everything. It was a moment of quiet uncertainty, the kind that makes you question everything you've known. I remember standing there in that office, hearing the words from my teacher, "You're booked for Egypt tomorrow." Tomorrow. The word itself felt heavy. I had no idea what lay ahead, but deep down I knew this was a decision I had to make. Egypt, a land so far from home, where everything was different. It was a leap of faith. I had no mobile phone, no way of contacting anyone. It was as if I was saying goodbye to everything I knew. But something in me knew it was time to go. I wasn't going to study in Egypt just to learn. This was about something deeper, something that was going to change my life, and I couldn't have predicted how much. Before I even left, something profound happened. It was a moment I will never forget. My mother and sister sitting there beside me. My teacher, without warning, began guiding them through the Shahada, and suddenly they were both Muslim. I couldn't believe what was happening. In that moment, it was as if the world around me shifted. Here I was, about to leave for Egypt, and both of the most important women in my life were embracing Islam. It was a gift from Allah. I had no words. All I could think was, Subhanallah. I remembered Allah in my moment of uncertainty, and He took care of everything. My family, my path, my faith. Everything was falling into place, and I had no idea just how much it would change me. Arriving in Egypt, I found myself standing in a small, modest apartment. I was miles away from home, far from the comforts I had once known. It was overwhelming. No mobile phone, no familiar faces. I was alone, but for the first time in my life, I felt peace. I sat in that apartment, reflecting on everything that had led me here. The Quran in my lap, my past flashing before my eyes. The streets I used to roam in London, none of it felt the same anymore. The things I once cherished, the things I thought I loved, I couldn't even bring myself to like them anymore. My life was changing right before my eyes. As I looked out the window at the bustling city of Cairo, I realized how much this journey was about more than just education. It was about finding myself, finding my connection to something greater than myself. I'll never forget the moment when my life seemed to come full circle. Back in London, after returning from Egypt, I found myself at the mosque for Eid. The imam, seeing something in me, asked me to share my story with the congregation. I didn't know how to react. I wasn't prepared. I never intended to speak in front of anyone, especially not at a mosque, in front of so many people. But the imam insisted, pulling me to the front, and before I knew it, I was standing there facing an entire room of strangers and friends. My heart raced. What was I supposed to say? But then, without thinking, the words came. I began to speak about my time in Egypt, about the peace I found, about the changes I was going through. I spoke from my heart, sharing my journey. As I spoke, I noticed the people in the room, their eyes locked onto mine. There was a connection, something deeper than just words. I didn't plan to do this. It wasn't part of my plan to be a speaker, a poet, or a nasheed artist. But in that moment, it wasn't about the performance. It was about sharing the truth I had found. And as I spoke, I realized something. My journey wasn't just my own. It was a story that needed to be told. During my travels, I performed in Malaysia, and one of the performances stands out in my mind. I rapped about the concept of brotherhood, about how true believers love for each other what they love for themselves. It was a topic that weighed heavily on my heart because I had seen how easily we, as people, can tear each other down. How we point fingers, criticize, and judge. But in that moment, I asked myself, do we really love each other as we claim to? And more importantly, are we really the true believers we profess to be? The crowd responded, shouting for me to speak about the sisters, and I had to pause. What could I say? I had seen a conversation online where someone had harshly criticized Muslim women for not adhering to a certain standard. But I knew that wasn't the truth. I couldn't let that go unchallenged. So I spoke. Sister, I can't even see your face. I can't hear your voice or smell your scent, but you must be the one Allah sent. It wasn't just about calling out the judgmental voices. It was about lifting up those who needed to hear that they were valuable just as they were. The sisters, the brothers, everyone. Our worth is not in how the world sees us, but in how we see ourselves through the eyes of Allah. Looking back on everything, I realized just how much my journey has changed me. If I could speak to the world, especially to those who don't understand Islam, I would say this: don't just follow what you've inherited. Don't let your life be guided by tradition alone. Pause, think, ask questions, search for the truth. We get so caught up in living that we forget to ask ourselves why we're living. We forget to stop and think about what truly matters. What is the purpose of life? What is the truth? We can't just follow the path that was laid before us. We need to seek the truth for ourselves. The moral of this journey? It's simple. Life is about more than just existing. It's about seeking truth, finding your purpose, and living with meaning. It's about turning to Allah in moments of uncertainty and trusting that He will guide you to where you need to be. When I look back at my life, I see a journey of faith, struggle, and transformation. A journey that wasn't planned, but one that I had to take. And the reward wasn't just in the destination, it was in the growth, the understanding, and the peace that came along the way. So no matter where you are in life, remember this: trust Allah's plan. The hardest journeys often lead to the most beautiful destinations. And sometimes the biggest changes come from the moments you least expect.